So for folks that are looking and thinking, should I franchise my business? Like, would that make sense for me? What's the criteria that you're looking for there? Let's dive into, what do you look for from a track record, from a revenue standpoint, but what are other criteria that we may not be thinking of?
So the first thing I would say here, and this is what I spend a lot of my time doing every day and have been for 23 years, is interviewing entrepreneurs, helping companies look at the franchise model, evaluate it, and figure out whether franchising could be a viable way to scale the brand and the model. Um, I welcome the opportunity to speak with anyone who is interested in this. There's no judgment. There's no bad conversation. And my recommendation is the sooner the better we have these kind of conversations. So I'd put that out there to anyone considering this. Don't disqualify yourself. Let's talk about it, and maybe we put in place like a 1 or 2 year plan on how to get ready for this. But even then, I would always welcome the conversation. From a financial standpoint, there are benchmarks as to how long the franchisee should take to get a return on investment on what it took them to open the business. That's really the number one financial qualifier that we're looking at. How much money does it take to get in? All in investment, the build out, the construction, the equipment, the marketing dollars, the franchise fee, and then your profitability, your revenue growth, year 1 through 3 through 5. How long does it take for them to see that money all paid back where they see 100% return on that investment after factoring in all of the operational costs, including a manager? So what I mean is, if I'm running a restaurant and it takes $100,000, $150,000 for me to open up a new location, the franchisee would have to make that investment. And over 2 years, I can show profitability of $150,000 after paying a manager to run that location. That's a great number. In fixed location models, usually I'd like that ROI to be within 3 to 5 years. Some of the
And
higher
that's off of the
investment
bottom
costs,
line profitability.
bottom line profitability. And in a service model, I probably would want to see 12 to 18 months. And usually in service models, there's not as much upfront investment, so that number is a bit easier to hit. You also don't have a cost of goods in a lot of service models, so the profitability tends to be higher. But those are the general benchmarks. Now, some models will be outside of that range. Like if we're buying real estate as part of the investment, that's going to change the metrics. We've seen that with brands like Primrose and some of the preschool models where there's a really high investment because they're usually wrapping in the real estate. We've done a couple of trampoline park models, same thing. The metrics are different just because the scale of the investment's different. But that's the first thing we would look at. The second thing we would look at, going back to the marketing and sales side, I want to see a tight franchise marketing model in place where you know, as the business owner, what it takes to get clients, what the cost of acquisition is to get clients, that we have a consistent lead gen process, that we have a sales process, things like a good POS, good CRM, uh, good digital marketing campaigns, social media management, all that stuff that really, if we're in business today, we should be doing anyways. We need to have that in order to teach this to someone else and effectively duplicate it. The third piece that we would look at is how tight our operational systems are. And I would put an asterisk by this one because it's definitely part of where we or someone like us could come in to help structure, help refine, help put processes and procedures down on paper. It's a big part of what we do if we're helping a company do this. Um, but what we can't have is a business where the entrepreneur is running 95% of it. They're working 20-hour days and they're running around like their heads on fire. And if they stop working, the business falls apart. That's the kind of model that it's working, but it's working because the entrepreneur is special, talented, and driven. There needs to be some element of a system, whether it's they've hired people to take on job responsibilities, they've opened up a second or third location, they've proven that they have an understanding for the day-to-day operations and how to teach that, how to replicate that. Ultimately, that's what the franchise model is. It's this business in a box that we're giving to a new owner. And what I always say to a franchisor or franchisee, franchising does not guarantee success for a franchise owner. And it also does not mean that the franchisee doesn't have to come into this with that fight and grit and passion and work ethic. You don't just buy it and then it makes money. What it should do, what a good franchise should do, is help that franchise owner skip year 1 and 2 if they started on their own. They effectively jump to year 3 in their growth. So if I go out and start this thing on my own and I'm just fighting and struggling and making every mistake in the world as an entrepreneur, it's going to take me a couple of years to figure it out. My profitability is going to be lower. I'm just not going to grow it as quickly. A good franchise model says, here's the path, spend the money on marketing, hire these people, use these vendors. And it's like, it gives me that fast pass around those first couple of years where I'd be struggling otherwise.
I've experienced that myself, which was for about 7-8 years. I attempted to start about 9 different businesses. Some, you know, better ideas than others. Clothing line, landscaping business, online marketing, all kinds of things that I don't think I generated a gross higher than $25,000 of in any of them individually, and probably less than 100 grand collectively. Um, and what was fascinating to me when my wife and I opened our first franchise, and it happened to be in the juice and smoothie space, was to, our first second month to do $30,000 in sales, and the first year to hit just shy of $500,000 in sales. And it was like, whoa, this is crazy. Now, sales isn't everything. Yes, you got to you got to count the margins, but you got to generate the sales in order to get the bottom line profit first. And to me, it just blew my mind, and it completely changed my confidence level. Because at that point, Chris, I started to question and doubt, is entrepreneurship for me? Can I ever do this? Maybe I'm just not cut out for it. I keep trying and failing and not following through and getting confused and overwhelmed, and like you're saying, kind of skipping those first couple of years. And so with my personality, to be able to come in and have a plug and play system, essentially, man, it changed everything for me. If you enjoyed this short clip from the podcast, you can check out another short clip right here. Or if you want to watch the full episode of this podcast, you can watch that here. And remember, knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.